Namaste. Welcome to Sacred Sunday Sadhana. Take some deep breaths to center and ground yourself. I think that these videos go over better when I'm succinct and when they're compact. So today I'd like to talk about the fact that the past year and a half, maybe longer for some people, we as humans on Earth have been in this constant state of change and maybe resistance to change and suffering due to not being able to accept what's happening. And it's been hard. Not only is there a pandemic going on, COVID-19, all the political and social cascades that are coming from that, but even inside that, people are getting divorced. People are dying, not from COVID. People that you know may have died. People that were in your life might now be gone. It might be as simple and as complex as you have teenage daughters or sons. I don't know what teenage sons are like, but if you have a teenage daughter, you know that suffering it's part of the game. It's part of raising the children, and it's almost like having an infant. It's almost like being a parent for the first time, because once you get a handle on, okay, I can do, we can do this, then it's different. Every week it's different. They're growing, they're changing into these amazing human beings, amazing adult beings. They're already amazing beings, but having a teenage child wrapped into this pandemic time, it really takes a lot of focus and a lot of strength and a lot of willingness to open, to surrender, a lot of courage to face everything that's happening. And if that's too specific for your situation, I bet there's some caveat inside of the pandemic that's also really hard. It would have been hard without all the shutdowns, lockdowns, masks, fear, all the things. But with that on top of it, it's kind of like this compressed, hard time. So for me personally, specifically over the past couple of weeks, it's been insanely hard. It's been so hard. And I've really had the opportunity, if you spin it positively, to reach into my toolbox and use everything that I have. So I just want to remind you that you're carrying a toolbox. And when things are good, when times are good, when things are happy and you're feeling engaged in the world and you just feel wonderful, that's the time to start putting tools in your toolbox, to start spiritually seeking and just building yourself this kind of nest so that when things get completely berserk, you have something to lean on, you have something to hold you, you have something to reach for. We've talked a lot about the koshas, which is just the 5 layers of body. Basically, it's just understanding that you're not the skin bag. You are so much more inside of this. And recently, not only I've held the belief for a long time that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're inside this organic matter that you can touch. But what I've just recently added to this knowledge of my own being is that we aren't a spirit inside a body. We are a spirit in the cosmos, in the stars and the planets, and we are transmitting a signal into this body. So this is where I receive what's coming from my true self, which is starlight, which is pure love, which is something that my human brain can't quite conceptualize. And to me, I heard it, I was listening to a podcast, and I listened to so many, I don't recall the gentleman's name, but this particular fellow, he's a scientist, was just talking about that very thing, that, you know, when the TV breaks, it's not that the broadcast is gone. You just replace the TV, and then the broadcast can reach the TV. And the same sort of concept, when this body is gone, when it's broken, when it is done operating on earth, it's not that, you know, the broadcast doesn't end, it's that there isn't a vessel to receive that broadcast. So perhaps that's going a little bit more deep than you wanted to go today. But I do want to highlight a few things that I've recently learned to add into the koshas, to add into the 10 yamas and niyamas. I finally got the 10th niyama on my body. It's Isvara Pranidhana, surrender to God, surrender to love. It's a work in progress, just like we all are. In addition to the koshas, in addition to the yamas and niyamas, I've recently started chanting every day. I've been doing a class about Supreme Sound with Simrit. She's an amazing yogini and just really embodied goddess. She's really powerful and beautiful. I encourage you to check her out if you haven't already. And her husband Jaidev does a lot of cool things too, but I'm really more interested in a female persuasion right now, and I've been doing some chanting every day. And if you do this chant 11 times a day, I promise, cross my heart, you will feel more alive, and you'll feel more willing and able to connect with the world. And it acts sort of like a cleansing, an internal cleansing for you to just take out the garbage. I'll just do it one time, but here's the chant. Namo Guru Dev Namo. If you've done Kundalini, you know the chant. Namo Guru Dev Namo. That has helped me get through so much this week and last week. And then I've also been doing this apprenticeship with Don Miguel Ruiz and Jose Ruiz and Don Miguel Jr. And through that, I've really been encouraged to remember over and over again that we can't take anything that's not real with us. And so the only thing that is real is love. And the only thing that we can really focus on that matters here on earth is love, cultivating love, growing love, sharing love, being of service. And that has also helped me out of some really dark, scary places that I've gone in my mind from some very real things that have been happening in my world with my family. Times that a year ago I wouldn't have been strong enough to handle. I wouldn't have been brave enough, and I wouldn't have had the tools to handle the things that have come up in the last couple of weeks. They're straight out of nightmares, and yet by chanting and by just focusing on the love in my heart and by being a transmission of love from the stars, I've been able to just cope really beautifully in a way that's allowed me to be gentle with myself as I'm going through this process that we're going through in my family. So I hope that that's helpful for you. I just wanted to share those trinkets, share those pieces, and I hope that you can put them together in a way that makes really good sense for you. It felt like there was one more thing I wanted to offer. Yes. And this is something that I thought of at 3 a.m. Just allow my cat to be scratching at his wall while I'm talking, please. I thought last night, even when we face these shadow aspects of ourselves, you can't have a shadow without the light. So I'm not sure how your brain works, but at 3 a.m., my mind is like just turning. And I'm thinking of the worst possible things and the worst of the worst. And lots of self-judgment and berating and like, why didn't you do this? You could have done this. You should have done that. You really got to do this. This is really important. I start just to dissect everything that's ever happened and decide like how I can do it better, how I can improve. But it's not in a very productive way. It's in a rather self-deprecating way. So last night I was like in that zone, and by about 5 a.m., then I'm usually like, oh wait, actually all is good, I am love, and I can go back to sleep. Last night, around 3:30, I realized, wait a minute, if I have this shadow aspect, and I'm like digging into the shadow, then I must also have a light, because there can't be a shadow without a light. So then I was able to like flip the narrative in my mind, just go into the light aspect of myself and of what's been happening. And, that can be as simple as changing a simple word in your story, in your narrative. I had a therapist at one point that would say, instead of worrying about ... say I'm curious about ... Instead of saying I'm so worried about what's going to happen with XYZ, I'm really curious what might happen with XYZ. And then you get to kind of step back and be in this witness standpoint of like, interesting. Yeah, I'm really curious about this. Because worrying isn't going to help you. Ever. All right. The light inside me sees the light inside you. Remember that you're not alone. Remember that you have tools. Remember that things get dark. It's going to get darker still. We are not out of the woods yet. But after the middle of April, things will lighten up. We will have a collective as things start to resume in a way that feels secure for us. So hang in there, keep using your tools, reach me if you need to. I think you know how. Namaste.